Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me for today's COVID-19 response and recovery efforts. On the call today is Director Mike Bruno with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, Fire Chief Keith Powers from Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department, and Emergency Operations Center Director Steve Woodard. They'll be available for questions as we conclude this briefing. As of this morning, the Florida Department of Health is reporting 1,507 cumulative cases of COVID-19 in Duval County, 245 hospitalizations, and 46 deaths. Out of a total of 50,761 tests, 3% have tested positive. That number has been steadily decreasing over the past month. Additionally, I'm told that COVID-19 suspected transports from the Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department was down to 7 yesterday, which is the part of a downward trend that we've been monitoring over the last few days. These numbers continue to demonstrate a decline in the impact this virus is having in our community. I would, however, like to remind people that the virus is still with us. We just have to act smart and behave responsibly. I continue to encourage people to wear a mask if you're in a dense area with populated people, such as a grocery store or a convenience store or a retail store. Obviously, if you're out at a restaurant, you can't wear a mask while you eat. Just follow proper protocols. I know my family and I have done that a number of times. And we have to remember that those most likely impacted by this in a very dangerous way are those with compromised immune systems. We need to make sure that assisting living facilities are taken care of, and that we make sure that that's where our focus is as we navigate this world that COVID-19 exists until we have a vaccine. Last night, City Council approved an additional $5 million in Federal CARES Act funds to help provide additional mortgage, rent, and utility assistance to 5,000 more Jacksonville households. So far, we've provided over $31 million in direct assistance to Duval County families impacted by COVID-19. In addition to the new funds, Council approved 2,000 grants to support 4,500 local small businesses, including sole proprietors and self-employed. I appreciate the support and efforts of my colleagues on City Council on our continued efforts throughout this pandemic. I can't say how grateful I am for City Council. As we entered this pandemic and we understood the economic fallout immediately, and we partnered with ViStar, which was quickly approved by our council, we allocated the funds to provide $1,000 stimulus checks to people that needed it for mortgage, for rent, mortgage, utility assistance. And now the City Council stepping up and providing additional funds. I thank you. I've heard so many stories from people in this community, a number of stories I can't even count them, where people have stopped me and shared with me that $1,000 stimulus check has gotten them through an additional month or two as they get back to work, or as they plan to get back to work in the days and weeks ahead. Last Friday, I joined Governor DeSantis in a news conference where he announced the lifting of restrictions on youth activities, including summer camps and athletics. Since then, my team has been working on plans to get our kids back into parks, pools, and programs in a safe and responsible way. First, with pools, we will begin reopening city pools with a phased approach, and will increase the number of pools available incrementally as staffing safely allows. Beginning June 8th, we will open 5 pools: Julius Guinyard, Oceanway, Woodland Acres, Charles Clark, and Cecil Aquatic Center. We will open additional pool locations as staff are hired and processed. We'll provide the media with a press release that has the full list and details of reopenings as soon as this news conference has ended. Pool hours will be Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Sundays. The Cecil Aquatic Center will be open Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please note that pools that are on Duval County Public School properties will remain closed for the time being. We hope to have access to those facilities sometime in July. For summer camps, we are planning to offer full-time, half-day, and full-day drop-in opportunities for Jacksonville youth. Parents, we want to assure you that with all of our camps, we are taking measures to protect the health and safety of our children, their families, and our city employees. We are reducing camp sizes to 30 participants or less. Group activities will take place with 10 participants or less. Masks, hand sanitizers, and gloves will be provided to all camp counselors, and disinfecting will take place daily. Campers will be encouraged to wear cloth face coverings, and hand washing breaks will take place every hour. So again, camp sizes will be reduced to 30 participants with a waiting list, and group activities will take place with 10 participants or less. Full day camps will be offered and will include activities such as crafts, educational sessions, and recreational sports. These camps will run from June 15th to July 24th from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and lunch will be provided. Locations will be posted on the Jax Parks webpage. Registration is required, but we've made the decision to offer these camps for free this summer. It's normally $225 for a 6-week session, but we recognize these are difficult times and want to provide families and young people the opportunity, free of charge, to get out of the house and have this experience. Our half-day club rec camps will take place from June 15th through July 24th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Kids will participate in activities including crafts, games, educational sessions, and recreational sports. Registration is not required, and lunch will be provided. And our full-day drop-in rec and roll park programs will be held from June 15th to August 8th from 10:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Registration is not required, and lunch will be provided at locations with appropriate facilities. Again, a full list of locations and programs will be posted on the Jax Parks and City web pages. These sites will also take part in the summer lunch program, providing meals to any child who needs it. The Kids Hope Alliance is also working closely with other community-based camps. A few of those partners are actually planning to open on June 1st, but many are looking to start on June 8th or June 15th. Please check with each individual camp provider. Additionally, many providers are proposing either a hybrid or virtual camp model, since our public schools are currently unavailable to host camps as they have in previous years. Roughly 50% of our Kids Hope Alliance funded camps are located in Duval County Public Schools. Athletic associations. On to youth athletics. As a former youth coach for my children, I'm excited for our kids to get back on the field, but we want things to be done in a safe and responsible way. That's why my team released a set of guidelines to youth athletic associations return to play in a safe way for both players and spectators. Guidelines include phasing in play to begin with a practice or training period before returning to games, limiting the size of groups and the number of groups practicing at the same time, limiting the number of players in dugouts or sidelines, or utilizing bleachers or tents to expand player areas to allow for social distancing, keeping a minimum of 6-foot distance between players when possible, providing a 30-minute break between practices or games. When returning to games, schedule in a way to reduce crowd sizes, restricting parent access to the field areas, promoting spectators in individual chairs set up along the fence lines. Players should bring their own water bottles, and shared water coolers are discouraged. Shared equipment such as balls, gloves, bats, pads, helmets, benches should be disinfected after each practice or game. And concession stands should follow CDC guidelines on food handling and consider selling prepackaged foods only. We've come a long way in the past few months and have made tremendous progress in the fight against this disease. Our success is the result of the safe and responsible actions we've taken together as a community to flatten the curve, and our continued success is dependent on us continuing those responsible behaviors. Please continue to wear masks when you're out and about in populated areas, indoors specifically. Wash hands frequently, keep group sizes small, and socially distance. The virus is with us, but it doesn't spread itself. We spread it. By being safe and responsible, we can manage this and get our city and our economy back open. With that, we'll take questions. Joe with News for Jax.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm sorry. My question is for either the mayor or Director Woodard. It's about hurricane shelters. This morning, the school board was briefed on how hurricane shelters are going to operate amid COVID-19. I'm hoping the director can speak to those new protocols, including screening of everyone who enters into the shelters, and then how those new protocols were arrived upon.
Director Woodard, would you please take that question on hurricane shelters as we enter the season?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, hurricane season begins June 1st. There's a storm impacting South Carolina today, so we are really in hurricane season. Given that information.
For tomorrow, we would look at all the hurricanes.
Yeah. Getting a lot of feedback there. For hurricane shelters this year, in our inventory, we have 29 shelters. Generally, when we evacuate, about 1% of the people under those evacuation orders take advantage of one of the public shelters that we provide. The capacity based on Red Cross recommendations will change if we're in a COVID environment, but we have worked closely with the school board, with Department of Health, and with the Red Cross, and we have the capacity to handle any evacuation that we would need to do here in Duval County based on those new requirements. As you mentioned, there will be additional health screening and sanitation and providing people more room to practice good social distancing. Thank you.
AG with Florida Politics. Jim with News for Jax.
Mayor, you had a lot of new information today regarding parks and also the stimulus program. So I have two questions on that. Let's start with the stimulus program. When can people start signing up for that? Is it the same requirements that we had in the past? Same for businesses. When can they and how do they take advantage of this new situation just passed by council? Then on the parks program, on summer camps and athletic associations, you had mentioned that only 30 participants, and I'm wondering, is that 30 participants per camp, like say at a particular park, and how will that be determined? First come, first served basis? How is all of that going to work out, and you know, how will it be decided who can do this?
Yeah, Jim, thanks. The first part of your question on access to the funding council passed, we're working through that right now. I hope to be able to get details to you, hopefully by the end of the day or tomorrow. As it relates to camps, there's a number of camps that I went through today. Some are free, require registration. Others don't require registration. One of the things I would encourage people to do is go to our website where they can find details. But yes, those camps that require sign up would be first come, first serve. And yet individual camps would be limited to 30 at this point in time. But Jim, this is a fluid situation. We're all monitoring this as we go, and as we, as we learn more information, as we see how the virus is spreading, as we monitor our numbers. And there was a moment in time where the CDC was saying there was definitely going to be a second wave in the fall, as recently as a couple of weeks ago. Saw a news report today that Dr. Fauci said there's not necessarily going to be another wave in the fall. We don't know. So as we monitor these things, the opening of camps, the expansion of camps, the ability to provide opportunities for kids is a fluid situation and will continue to change as we move to the summer. And if we continue our trends, they're going to get better, and we should be able to provide more access. The second part of the question, I answered both questions. Thanks, Jim. AG, Florida Politics.
Yes, Mayor, I got a question about the HRO. You didn't support it in 2015, 2016, 2017. You didn't sign it It's back up to council. It looks like they're going to pass it. Will you sign it this time? And has your position evolved on the issue? Thank you.
AG, my understanding is the HRO is back before the city council because of a technicality in the law. That has been law with us now for a number of years. So if the city council corrects the technicality, I'll sign the bill. Megan with Action News.
Hi, Mayor. A few questions here, mostly about summer camps and the stimulus. But first, I want to ask, have you seen anything concerning in terms of cases since reopening? How much is left in the current stimulus? Why are we adding $5 million? And my last question is for parents who have children with some, immune disorders or asthma, would you recommend that they keep their kids home?
First part of the question, I remember, so we asked a question about the additional stimulus. We have appointments that commit to the original 40 million. So the additional stimulus led by our city council, Councilperson Leanna Cumber led the charge on this, is to make sure that citizens have dollars for again, rent, utilities, et cetera, and that businesses can also bridge a gap if needed. I don't recall the first part of your question, but let me answer this last part of your question as it relates to kids, as it relates to compromised immune systems. As we navigate this virus that is with us, we know that those with respiratory issues, compromised immune systems, we also know that assisted living facilities can spread rapidly. The folks that are really ill, each individual family and a person is going to have to behave responsibly. So for me personally, I don't have someone in my family that has a compromised immune system that I see or meet with on a regular basis. It just doesn't exist in my family or in my circle. If I did, if I had a parent at home or a grandparent, for example, with respiratory issues, I would consider whether or not I should have my child go into a camp, come home if I were then going to interact. We're all just going to have to make personal decisions based on those that are the most vulnerable. So if you have a child that's going into a camp, that's coming back into home with someone with a compromised immune system, if I were that parent, I would ask the question before I would do that. Now, parents may make a decision that for this period of time, if they have someone like that in their family, they want their kids to get back to normal and they're going to shield interactions for the foreseeable future. Those are personal decisions we're all going to have to make, but we can't shut down our entire economy. We can't shut down the lives of our children and the people around us as we deal with this virus. We just have to be responsible and deal with this in a way that cares about each other across all fronts. And I would also encourage to talk to your doctor or pediatrician if you have questions about those that you or your children may be interacting with when they come back from camp or some sort of public interaction. Eliza with First Coast News.
Hi, Mayor. A couple of questions regarding the pools and lifeguards. First, how will lifeguards handle managing not only normal pool safety, but also COVID-19 safety? I'm curious to know how many lifeguards do you have now and how many do you need to staff the pools? And where can people get trained, or if those who are already certified, where can they sign up?
Yeah, we have lifeguard training happening right now. We were going through all of that this morning, and I will get you, look, all of you and all the media are going to want to understand safety protocols with lifeguards, safety protocols surrounding pools in general and social distancing, safety precautions surrounding summer camps. We're getting all the details out as we plan to launch into the next, as we move into the month of June, and we'll get all of that information to you as we wrap up the day today. Jim with News for Jax.
Mayor, talking about phase 2, have you had discussions with the governor at all? When are we about to enter that? You're talking about numbers being down, runs being down today. Where do we stand with that, and what do you want to see happen next?
I am in communication with the governor about whether it's a phase 2 or an expansion of phase 1. Again, those almost become semantics at this point. This is about reopening things and getting people back to activities that they want to participate in, back to work. One of the things that I'd like to see open in the near term, and I've in conversation with the governor's office, is bars. I think that they can reopen in a safe, responsible way, much like restaurants have, with capacity restrictions and making sure that people aren't shoulder to shoulder, for example, standing at a bar. I would expect additional announcements, hopefully sometime into next week, given the downward trend that we've continued to experience in Duval County. Again, I would remind people, though, as I said in remarks, the virus is still with us. You're going to see days where you see more positives as tests increase. You'll see days where a hospital may see an increase in hospitalizations from the day or the week before. And if and when that happens, we monitor that. We engage with the Department of Health. We engage with the State Emergency Operations Center to make sure that we're understanding if there's some sort of unknown spread that's happening, and to mitigate that in the event we end up there. Tarek with News for Jax.
Hi, Mayor Tarek Minor, Channel 4. Question for you. What's the thought process behind opening only 5 pools? And also, how are those 5 pools determined to be the ones to open? It's our understanding that COVID can't be spread in chlorine.
Yeah, it's based on staffing availability. This decision, while all the things we've contemplated reopening and worked with the governor on, when you finally get to the decision that you make it, you've got to be able to, the manpower, the safety protocol. So those first 5 pools are frankly based on manpower. As we ramp up, my expectation, and my team knows this, is to open as many pools as possible. People need an outlet. Pools are a place where it can be done in a safe and responsible way. Last question, Hannah with WOKV.
Hi, Mayor. Do you know how many people have applied for the mortgage rent utility grant versus the number of people who are actually granted the money? And will those people be able to reapply for an appointment?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head of the numbers that have applied, but I would say that if someone has applied and they met the criteria, or they believe they met the criteria, but they didn't apply on time, of course they will be able to apply for the next round. If someone applied and they didn't meet the criteria, unless they think there was an oversight or a mistake, which I don't think that happened, they shouldn't reapply, because they're just going to clog up the waiting list. With that, that's the last question. I would remind you that I'll have a 9 a.m. press conference tomorrow. That will be an in-person press conference where we will stress a number of things, including safety as we navigate the days and weeks ahead. I will have medical professionals and leaders of hospitals with me as well. So look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow, and ask everyone just to continue to be safe and take care of each other.